Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra, where we serve you more truth before midday than most people can handle in a week. Today we're diving into the curious case of Nigeria's youth, those enigmatic beings who seem to have mastered the art of sit-down look during elections, but have suddenly discovered a burning desire for change now that the economy is about as solid as a wet piece of tissue paper. Now, hey, hang on, before you burn me at the stake, I will explain. Let's start with a recap of the last elections, shall we? Let's talk about voter apathy. Our vibrant youth decided to treat the polls like an overhyped concert they wouldn't be caught dead at. Why vote when you can tweet your complaints about, whatever and hope for a hashtag miracle? But now, with the price of bread competing with luxury items, they're collectively wondering why the change they ordered for never arrived. Well, spoiler alert, you need to participate in the process to expect results. Now, one might ask, why are these bright young minds who are quick to debate online refusing to pick up the mantle of leadership? Could it be that taking selfies and creating viral memes is a much more attractive career path? Or maybe they're holding out for a reality TV show titled So You Think You Can Govern, where they can vote their SMSs through because, hey, if it doesn't involve a smartphone, it's probably not worth their time. Hang on, by the way, when is Big Brother premiering? Well, you would know. Now, here's a brutal truth wrapped in a friendly reminder. You can't sit in the passenger seat and complain about the route when you refuse to drive the car in the first place. Change doesn't happen while binge watching Supercell on Netflix and hoping someone else will rise to the occasion. Remember, even Batman had to get off the couch to save Gotham, and he didn't do that by sending tweets from the Batcave. No, he didn't. As we consider the upcoming protests, let's ponder why the youth haven't yet stormed the stage of leadership. Are they waiting for an engraved invitation? Maybe we fry egg with your yam for you. Maybe they're just hoping the current leaders will suddenly retire and hand them over the keys to the kingdom. Or perhaps they're still searching for the perfect Snapchat filter to announce their political debut. I know this sounds harsh, but you'll get it at the end. Now, let's get a bit silly here because, after all, laughter is the only medicine, and we're all a little sick of the current state of affairs. So picture this. A youth leadership conference or summit where instead of speeches, attendees communicate solely through dance challenges. The most convicting twerk wins a seat in the House of Representatives. Ridiculous? It might sound so, but in a world where reality often surpasses satire, hey, it just might work. But it's not all doom and gloom, no. Dear Nigerian youths, I have a message for you all. All hope is not lost. There's still time to shuffle the deck and play your cards right. Engage in dialogue, demand inclusion, and maybe, just maybe, join the protest not just with placards, but with plans. Remember, you are not too young to lead. After all, if you want to see change, you might need to be the change itself. Who knows? The next election could be the plot twist we've all been waiting for. So there you have it. A snarky yet sincere reminder that the power to shape the future lies not just in our complaints, but in our action. So stay tuned as we take yet another look today at the state of the nation in the eye of an imminent storm here on Breakfast Extra. We now go to our in-house youth correspondent who will be in charge of entertainment at the upcoming protest. Judith TB, please, if you'll give us the situation over there, if you will, be so kind to do so, please. Thank you very much, Judith.
Well, so far so good. I must inform you that the entertainment is about to start. You keep it locked on here.
Absolutely. What a way to start a Sunday edition here for Breakfast Extra. You're welcome. Let's get it going.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Breakfast Extra again. As always, we have just what you need for an excellent start this time to a wonderful Sunday, all right, and a start to a great week ahead. And as we gear up to bring you all the biggest stories and reports that you missed over the week. And so today, we dive into the potential suspension of Nigeria's 20% sugar tax and its economic, social, and health implications. We'll also explore the complexities of doing business in Nigeria. And this time, we would use Dangote refineries, or rather Dangote Industries, as a case study, focusing on the industries and the challenges that they have faced in the economic landscape that is Nigeria. We would also be celebrating and commemorating World Brain Day in our Wellness Central segment today. And we'll also discuss the implications of NEMA's 800% increase in airline navigation service charges and what it would mean for our plane tickets and for price of airfares. And also on Focus Africa, would focus our attention to Ethiopia as a recent landslide disaster and its connection to climate change and the numbers as it continues to rise since it started earlier last week. So there's so much more lined up for you. So we'd like for you to stay here for an insightful episode with expert discussions and analysis on these critical topics that matter. But as always, Mazido is here with me in the studio.
Good morning to you for a Sunday.
morning.
Looking forward to the end of looking forward to the start of the show, aren't you? Because it's been a long weekend for all of us. But we're glad that you guys are here with us. We wouldn't be doing this to,
Was it because you were in the queues? Were you on the queues?
The queues are getting longer.
Look, I saw one that was almost the same length as half of the third mainland bridge. Yeah, that one. It looks, it's as long as half of a quarter of the third mainland bridge. I don't want to over-exaggerate it, but that's how long that queue is.
Very many theories, conspiracy theories on about the current fuel queues and their emergence at this time. It's very peculiar. And
that's happening now.
Exactly, I guess we'll talk about all of that.
Keep moving to our dailies for this morning.
Exactly.
And we're going to get started with the Sunday Times, ladies and gentlemen. The very first big story that comes at you there. Federal government strategies ahead of nationwide protests tightens nation's borders, temporarily suspends leave for security officers, continues surveillance on vulcanizers at major roads. At the top there, again, petrol scarcity bites harder in Lagos FCT. When you go down to the bottom there, LGBTQ doctrine splits United Methodist Church in Nigeria. 4 conferences move to GMC. You can find that story. 4 conferences move to GMC. That's on the Sunday Times. Right next to it, after viral video, or your government probes popular hospital over mysterious death of patient. Insecurity, pathetic story of Daniel Anabe, Ogun migrant farmer constantly under the grips of armed headers. And of course, tributes as Senator Ifeanyi Uba dies in London. Very sad news there.
Yeah, I hit a lot of people yesterday. It was so surprising because it was only just he only just took off 2 days from before. There's plenty we're going to talk about the vulcanizers and tires, but let me get on with the Sunday Independent for now. Tension in Nigeria ahead of August protests. The people have lost faith in Tinubu's government, say analysts. President laying foundation for national prosperity, says Swaga, and yield to citizens' demand for pro-people's policies, policies rather. CSOs tell the federal government at the very top, Edo 2024. Let's get back to some politics now, shall we? A gale of defections hits APC LP as hundreds join PDP in Ovia Southwest. Group alleges plan to arrest, detain PDP chieftain and also indigents there. Yes, Inegbeniki. And Kiamo threatens to move British Airways out of Nigeria. Go Minister. Foreign registered aircrafts used for illegal charter operations, say task force. Stood aside. Slain Rivers DPO police hand over remains to family for burial. As Governor Fubara redeems prime suspects 100 million naira bounty. And at the very bottom for the Sunday Independent, oily controversies. We're turning to Brazil and the U.S., say Dangote refinery. This is very sad. We're going to have a talk about this on Inside of the Show today, so brace up. It's going to be a very interesting story as we look at the ease of doing business using the case study of Dangote Industries.
We'll move away from that now to Sunday Vanguard and the very first, Sunday Telegraph, I beg your pardon. And the one that comes at you there, hashtag end bad governance action. Presidency orders governors, monarchs to ensure failure of protests. And this is from sources. It says it's a sign of Nigeria's deterioration. Northern can indeed won't protest over hunger. OYC, presidency mismanaging planned protests. Keshi. You can find this story on pages 2, 3, 14, and 19. At the very top of the paper there, the front page there, Tinubu, Senate, Kalu, Obi, governors, others mourn as Ifeanyi Ubah dies at 52. That story is on page 8 of the Sunday Telegraph. Right next to it, INEC encouraging Abure's stay in office. LP committee commission, we don't interfere in parties' internal affairs. That story is on page 2 and 21. At the bottom there, fuel scarcity hits Lagos, Abuja, Ogun, other states again. Commuters stranded as bosses raise fares. We had hitches in discharge operations. NNPC that's NNPC Limited. Ipman, some stations shutting down ahead of August 1st. And that story, you can find it on page 3 of the Sunday Telegraph. Uncertainty in Rivers over court order against LG polls. Porous borders, other challenges hindering North's security. CDS, that story is on page 4. Hostcom backs Dangote, modular refineries to end fuel importation. Find that story on page 8. PDP postpones Abia Ebonyi congresses. You can find that story on page 4.
We'll move on now swiftly to This Day newspaper for Sunday. Hardship protest. Shatima pleads Kwankwaso banks on democracy. The writers here, Makinde Aidetiwa, caution protest organizers against violence. Take charge, prevent anarchy. Wetokun orders squad commanders. And immigrations intensifies surveillance at borders. And Nigerian students pull out of protest. Make demands. We get to talk about first off today as we continue. Dangote Refineries debunks allegations of reselling crude oil, says $19 billion facility functioning optimally. And let's see what other headlines do we have here. Same as from before, Tinubu, Akpabio, Abasobi, Soludo, Sanwo-Olu, Anambra, APC, mourn Ubah. And there, that's it for This Day newspaper for this morning. Do we have another?
Yes, indeed. We move over from that now to our Sunday Punch. I'll pull up Sunday Punch there for you on the screen. And the very first big one there, hardship protest, it's on page 3. APC kicks as opposition tackles DSS police over arrest threat. PDP not surprised by threats, a spokesman. Protest organizers reject IG's conditions. Tinubu should tread carefully. That's from LP. Presidency after solution, not protesters, APC. You can find all of these and more on the page 3 of Sunday Punch. At the very top, few accused NNPC marketers blame supply hitches. And that story is on page 3. Airfares shot up again as operators battle 800% charge hike. That story is on page 7. Nigeria's investment in education poor. And that's from Fola Shade. You can find the story on pages 17, 30, and 37. Right next to it, National Assembly loses 5 members in 1 year. That story there is on page 5, following the death of Ifeanyi Ubah. At the bottom there, slain Rivers DPO police informant gets 100 million naira bounty after court leaders killing. That story is on page 44. I was sad when scan showed 4 babies, mother of quadruplets. You can find that story on page 30. Uncovered how desperate homes, businesses bypass meters in massive electricity theft. That story is on page 42 and 43. And of course, the sad news there of Ifeanyi Ubah as passing as he died in London hotel. Tinubu mourns and the government mourns as well. That story is on page 6. And finally, at the bottom, couple buy baby from Lagos traffickers arrested during naming ceremony. That story is on page 44.
Yes, let's wait until the naming ceremony to arrest them. Okay.
Well, what if the investigation unfolded that time?
Perhaps, maybe it was just, yeah. I wanted to say something real quick before we start the show.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether, can you hear it?
What is that?
It's the silence.
Silence of what?
We're hearing nothing else but everything about the protest.
Well, I said that yesterday, didn't I? He's not addressing.
Very interesting.
The presidency has refused to address the nation. You've not spoken to the.
Well, not just that, but the fact that everything else has taken a halt. It's not Edo politics. It's no River State. It's no Emirate tussle. It's
I
nothing.
get you.
But that's an opportunity there, an opportunity for dialogue, and your voice could be heard even louder now. And I'm speaking to the youth, you people. And I'm saying, hey, grab it, use it. Now's the time. Let them hear exactly what you want them to know.
keeps pointing fingers at youth. Meanwhile, he's been claiming he doesn't have beard. So where's your beard?
This is Grace you won't understand. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the front pages that we can take on for a Sunday edition for Breakfast Extra. We hope that you guys join us throughout the entirety of the show because we have quite the big report for you coming up. Only if you stick with us. We'll be back. Welcome, Breakfast Extra here, and in a distressing event highlighting the persistent safety challenges in Lagos State, a building under construction recently collapsed, leading to the tragic loss of 5 lives and leaving several others injured. This incident underscores the urgent need for stricter safety measures in Nigeria's construction industry, particularly as Lagos continues to experience rapid urbanization. The state's growing population and housing demands often pressure builders to cut corners, leading to catastrophic consequences. In response to this tragedy, the Lagos state government has swiftly implemented a ban on overnight sleeping at construction sites, a common practice that has posed significant risks to workers' safety.
And now the ban is part of a broader effort to enhance safety protocols and prevent further disasters, aiming to ensure that construction companies adhere to proper building standards. However, this policy also raises concerns about enforcement and the socio-economic implications for laborers who rely on temporal shelter at these sites. The incident has also sparked a broader conversation about the need for comprehensive reform in the construction sector, as well as greater oversight and accountability from both government and private entity. Now, before we get into the discussion for this morning, our correspondent, Bernard Akede, was at the site, or the building collapse site, from earlier this week in Maryland, Lagos. And here is his report.
This wreckage is all that is left of the 2-story building which stood here in Wilson Mba Street. The building, which was still under construction, had some construction workers in it when it came down. 5 people were rescued and are currently being looked after at the Gbagada General Hospital. But sadly, another 5 male corpses were pulled out of the wreckage.
A lot of our people are still not following the building codes of the state government. We're still doing search and rescue to see if there are other lives that are present, and of course, we will switch immediately to ground zero operations. Part of this building unit of it, or part of the reinforcement, the concrete will have to be taken to material testing. So that would determine, of course, what really is the cause of the incident.
One of the residents who lives next to the collapsed building explained what she heard just before the building came down.
I can't tell you what really happened because it was already like around past 1 in the night. I heard the noise of a neighbor shouting, "Lamp, lamp, lamp, lamp." That was when I woke up. That what happened. So when I came outside, I saw that the building was already collapsed. I can't say much about the building, but I only saw every day they walk there, overnight time, morning, evening. That's what I can say about the building.
Some of the buildings in the area that are affected by the swampy nature of the terrain have previously been marked as distressed by the authorities. Just behind the street where this building came crashing down is an entire stretch of swampy land, marshy ground basically, where there's a lot of water, and these kind of areas are prone to flooding, especially now during the rainy season. Even as the excavator is working here, we can feel the ground bouncing, almost like there's water underneath the sand filling here. And no surprise that one of the Lasema agents here who was working told us off camera though that he would not be surprised to find out that it was because of the topography of the area, how swampy this place is, that may have been one of the causes or the major cause of this building collapsing here. While the owner of the collapsed structure or the contractor in charge are yet to be identified, officials of the Lagos State Building Control Agency have said they will carry out integrity tests on the other structures close to the collapsed building, and if found unworthy, those buildings too will be pulled down. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
And that was Bernard Akede there, News Central correspondent, live at the site that collapsed over this week in Arowo Jobe, Maryland, Lagos. And he joins us live to provide deeper insight into this story and also to talk more about the menace that is building collapse in Lagos. Bernard, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Morning, Bennett.
I mean, a very horrible sight there that we saw, and also our heart goes out to the family of those who lost their life. But I'd like for you to pretty much describe the scene of the collapse. And you also made mention about the topography of that area as well, which is Maryland. But again, to the sites, the responses from the emergency services, and a bit more on the area.
All right. So clearly, as I mentioned earlier, the site is quite it's a swampy area, very waterlogged, very, marshy ground, so to speak. For those who know Maryland, you know that deep down inside Maryland, down Midday, especially that Arrow Job, on arriving in that area, anyway, there's even a bridge that's under construction. But then we got to see and we got to notice that a lot of the houses there, well, some of the houses there are already sinking, right? Many of the compounds, they had to be raised with sand filling and concrete. But when you raise when you let me see if I can use my hands to describe. If you build a house and the ground level is like this, by the time you raise the ground, it goes this way, and then the house itself is a bit low, but the ground has come up, and we did get to see some buildings there that, as I mentioned, had already started sinking. Some had flood waters already in the compound, and some compounds were marked distressed, as I mentioned, and some even abandoned, as a matter of fact. So when we got there, one of the LASEMA agents who was working and refused to speak on camera said he really would not be surprised if it is as a result of the topography of the area and the flooding, the continuous flooding, particularly during the rainy season, that made the uncompleted building very weak, made the structures weak, and they made it collapse. That's one. Secondly, one of the neighbors there complained about building materials, and I know we've heard this, one time too many. However, she blamed the building materials or the use of substandard building materials to the cost of materials in the market at the moment. And she gave an analogy where a friend had paid contractors money to buy iron rods to build. When the contractor got to the market, the kind of rods, the specification they needed was not available, so they had to buy substandard materials. Unfortunately, that could cause, collapse of buildings as well. And then, as you also mentioned while reading the introduction, people living in uncompleted buildings, that's a conversation that we really need to have. Whether it's the builders who have to live there, probably because of proximity or because that's what they can afford while they are building, or because it's convenient for them during the whole months of building, or it's just destitute who have nowhere to stay. The issue of people living in uncompleted buildings in and around Lagos is definitely a conversation that has to be had. And if it's going to be enforced, then the authorities need to come hard. Just behind my apartment here is an uncompleted building that has been under construction for a couple of months now. And I know for a fact that people live there sometimes. It's a health risk. It's a security risk for the people who live around that construction site. And then for those who are living in it as well, it's another security risk. So there's a whole lot of conversation surrounding collapsed buildings that we need to look at the moment in Lagos.
All right, well, Bernard, I'm very curious regarding the area. Now, you did say that it was a residential area. You also talked about the quality of land there and how houses sink. Does it seem like perhaps maybe these areas are being sold off at cheaper rates than other places, and that's why there's a rush for them and there's a rush to build on these lands with inadequate material? Does that seem the case?
Well, when it comes to housing in Lagos or buying of lands or buildings, the word cheap is relative. So even when you say cheap, your cheap might not be my cheap, as I don't know how much you earn, but your cheap might not be my cheap. But well, that could be one of the cases, say because the land is quite marshy, it's waterlogged, or it gets waterlogged when it rains. So it would go for not as expensive as somewhere else you buy that would be solid ground, or as a certain other location, say maybe like Lekki. But again, when it comes to the mainland, Maryland is, so to speak, high end. So it's not exactly cheap. But then, I mean, there are houses already standing there, and it's an estate, Arrow Job estate. So I wouldn't say it's exactly cheap. We did see some kind of, choice buildings around there. People had erected certain kind of structures there. Again, because it's Lagos, land is land. So regardless of where you're buying, it will be relatively pricey. But what we came to notice while observing the area was that people already know that this area is waterlogged. So what most of them do is they do heavy sand filling in the area before they build. However, depending on the amount at one's disposal, that will determine the kind of or the amount of sand filling that you can do. And if you do not do proper or heavy sand filling, then unfortunately your building may be heading, this way. The fate of your building might just not be too different from what one has seen there. We saw so many buildings there. The area, the lands were sand filled. Some not as much as others, some raised very high, some not as much as others. So for one who's coming to buy land in that area, you can see it that it is waterlogged, and you know that you have a lot of work to do if you want to live safely in that particular environment.
And when people make these choices, it makes me wonder if it's because of the housing deficit that is in Lagos. We understand that it is over about 2.5 million when it comes to housing deficit. So when these construction workers are sleeping at their construction site, which is their workplace in and of itself, and they have no choice, even when you see land poachers, because I know a couple of months ago there was a property that was highly gated and very fenced. I never knew there were poachers living there until when they started to move their things out of the land or the property for the person to start to build a block of flats now. But it's very interesting, and I wonder if that's a housing deficit that causes also these people to go and get cheaper material, cheaper building materials to build these homes at a very fast rate so that they can put it out and get money and get their loss or their expenses back. But I would like to ask about the construction company that's involved as well. Has there been any statement from the authority regarding the construction company and the owner of this property?
Well, so far, none yet. That was one of the questions I particularly asked the representative of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA. I asked him categorically, has there been any news from the owner of the property or the company who was contracted, or companies contracted to construct the building? And he said no, that they are not saying that they're going to apprehend or arrest these people, but they just wanted to come forward for questioning so they can know exactly what went into the building, how many people have been working there, the kind of material, they can prove the kind of materials that they have been using to build that particular structure, and other information that will help the investigation. This happened on Thursday, as at Friday evening, I beg your pardon, there has still been no word from the LASEMA office or from the owner of the building or the company who was constructing the building.
Right. Bernard, I have to ask about, I know you interviewed one of the residents at that Arowo Jobe as well. Were you able to speak to any of the workers at the site, those who were at the construction site? What was the atmosphere like in the estate?
It was a street, not the street is not so long, something Wilson Mba Street. The residents just stood from a distance and were looking at what was going on. Not many of them wanted to speak, except for that lady who shares a fence with the property that came down. As for the workers, five of the corpses that were pulled out were workers, and the other 5 that were rescued were also workers. So none of them was around. But on our way out, there was a gentleman who came and was in tears. One of the security operatives brought him to sit down, and they started questioning him. They didn't give us a chance to talk to him, but from a distance, he spoke in Yoruba, and I could hear him say that all the people who were there, they knew each other. Some of them came from Ibadan, to come and work. They, of course, because they were looking for work, and that is where they've been living and sleeping, which is pretty much, unfortunately, normal when it comes to construction sites. The laborers, more often than not, sleep in those buildings. As for the other neighbors who were there, we did get to hear that first aid relief, so to speak, came from one of the neighbors who's a medical doctor, and it was him who made it possible for some of the lives to be saved. The fear now for the other neighbors, I think, will be the testing of the other structures, testing the integrity of those structures. If those structures don't seem strong enough, then they'll be pulled down. So the question now is, where will they go? Is there any way they can appeal that their buildings don't get pulled down? Is there anything they can do? Because again, you mentioned the housing deficit in Lagos. It's one thing for one to be looking for accommodation. It's another thing for one to be immediately evicted or ejected from the accommodation because it has to be pulled down due to the fact that there was a collapsed building beside it there. So, well, it's, that's the situation, or that was the situation at the time we left there. Not many people were willing to speak except for that lady who shares the fence with the collapsed structure.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I was very curious regarding all the other structures on the street, but we are out of time. But thank you very much for bringing us such a fine report, and we do hope that you follow on with the story, and let's see how it develops. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for having me.
And you're welcome to Perspectives. It's where we deep dive into the pressing issues of our time and hear from the voices that matter the most. And today we're exploring a crucial question. Is protest or dialogue the answer to good governance? And as tensions rise and calls for change grow louder, we hit the streets to find out what people think about the effectiveness of protest versus dialogue in achieving good governance. Let's hear what they had to say. Take a look.
I'm in support of the protest, but I think the protest should be a peaceful one.
To be candid, I'm indifferent.
Any protest that you want to have in this country and you don't have the transporters, you don't have labor, what is it? Before you know what's happening, it's going to be counterproductive.
I'm not against the protest, but rather I will not go and protest because of what happened the last time.
Protest is something that is acceptable in a democratic government for people to express themselves.
If the protest is going to go smoothly, people can just use that to just express themselves to the government.
To fight for our right, ourselves, because nobody will fight for our right. We will also fight the right by ourselves to claim our right. Maybe we will have representatives or maybe lawyers and people that will represent the citizens, and then dialogue with the government, give the citizens feedback. The government will be able to concede, okay, these are our concessions. Then the negotiators, on behalf of the masses, we also take it to the government. This is what the masses are saying. Then we'll be able to move the nation forward. But saying whatever happens, happens, no, nothing is going to happen. At the end of the day, we end up destroying the citizens instead of the government.
It's not like protest will totally solve the problem, but it's just going to be a step to create an awareness to the government that, okay, we need a change because a lot of people are suffering from what is affecting and plaguing our nation. We understand that inflation is everywhere. It's a global phenomenon right now. But I think there should be some measures that could actually help citizens to be able to adjust to what is happening in the economy.
There is hardship in the land, which is visible everywhere. Inflation is over the roof, transportation, fuel hike, everything. But if we actually need a change in Nigeria, there are ways in which we can actually do it. And although protest is part of it, and in fact, protest is number one thing that should be done, but it should be done in an orderly manner.
It's an eye-opener for the governments to know that there is something going on in the country that it doesn't sit well with everybody. So I think the protest is just like a warning for the governments, to do something. We can't just sit down and feel like everything is fine. So some people are traveling out because of the situation of the country, while there are some that can't afford to travel out.
For business owners, the policies are not too good for business owners, but it's a bit better for the investors that are coming in. And if government can just please do something about it so that we business owners, we can have ways of doing our business with ease.
We cannot afford anarchy in this country. Country is not even up to the standard to start with. Then to start destroying it, it is still our finances that will still be used in bringing back all those destroyed properties, infrastructures.
I want the process to be more specific to the nation, to the government. Like, they should address exactly what they want the government to do and let it be in a peaceful manner. We knew about the last protest that happened during the EndSARS, and we saw the effect of that protest. And we don't want such thing to repeat itself because we don't want to protest at the expense of people's life. We want to protest for a change. So if they will be protesting, let them highlight what they want the government to do for them.
Anything that is not centralized, anything that has no leadership, anything that has no real demand, to me, it's not the way to go. The Kenyans, they're actually doing great in terms of what they are doing, but are they, what is the visible outcome that they're actually expecting? Do you understand? What is the outcome they are expecting? So it is the outcome that we must be able to point out, okay, this is what the president must do. It's not the president must go. No, the president cannot go. Even the Kenyans, they are saying, has the president gone? No.
If people are coming out to protest, they should just do it calmly. They shouldn't fight. They should just express their mind to the government. And I know that President Tinubu will attend to every issues. I'm trusting God that he will. He will, because he knows that we are all Nigerians and we have nowhere to go. This is our place. So things must just be better for all Nigerians.
I participated in protests, and I know that the aftermath of protest is not always good. So if you want to protest, we must try as much as possible to be civil about it, so that it won't lead to what we never planned, what we never imagined. It is whoever that get home that can tell how a battle is won or lost. The person that died in the battle cannot tell the story.
And there you have it, diverse perspectives from across the nation, whether through protests or dialogue. It's clear that people are passionate about their role in shaping our country's future. And so we're going to get into, this discussion later on today, or better yet, on now for our big story. Is dialogue the answer? So as the country braces for the planned nationwide protest on August 1st, organized by Nigerian youths in response to escalating economic hardships, a recent development shows that the momentum behind these protests may be waning. And according to reports, several groups have withdrawn their support, citing a variety of reasons, including concerns about potential violence and a preference for dialogue with the government.
Now, despite these setbacks, the underlying frustrations remain palpable among many young Nigerians who continue to grapple with high unemployment rates, inflation, and a general sense of disenfranchisement. Now, the question remains, are the youth ripe for dialogue, or is there a deeper disconnect that needs addressing? As some groups push for constructive engagement with authorities, others believe that protests are necessary to force meaningful change. The outcome of these protests could have significant implications for Nigeria's socio-political landscape.
And so to explore these issues and to further and also to discuss this in detail, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Our very first guest for today is Mr. Boyega Akoshile. He's a special advisor to the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on media and publicity, and he'll be joining us later on during the course of this program. We also have Mr. Omoyele Sowore. He's a renowned politician and activist, and he joins us live via video chat. And also here in the studio is Kundayo Titilayo Dorcas, who is the chairperson of the National Female Student Association of Nigeria, NF-SAN, Lagos chapter. Each of them will bring their unique perspectives to the table, and they're going to be offering us some insight into the complexities of youth activism and government response in today Nigeria. Again, many thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. First off, I want to come to Mr. Sowore, who's joining us via video chat. Good morning, sir. Thank you once again. Big question is, are the youth ripe for dialogue? What do you think, sir?
Well, I wanted to first and foremost thank you for bringing me on your show this Sunday, and also very quickly correct the earlier impression in your intro that the protest is waning because some people, as you claim, are withdrawing. That is not correct. The protest is not waning, except if you are not listening to the right channels. The people you claim are withdrawing are people who were never part of the protest in any way, form, or nature. They are the people the government cobbled together, people who were largely paid or misinformed and asked to go out and try to demobilize the public. That is not new in the history of protest. Now you talk about dialogue. Protest itself, and hear me out, It's a form of dialogue. The difference between dialoguing generally, physically, and the dialogue that is conducted by protest is that protest dialogue is louder, and it is the best way to dialogue with the deaf. When I mean deaf, the Nigerian government or most African government are tone deaf. So if you're sitting across the table from them and not listening to you, it is when they know that the people are not going to accept whatever they are rubbing over their heads that they start to listen to you. And the communication at that point, the dialogue is stronger, it's more powerful, it's more potent, and more effective. So protest itself is dialogue. I just want to clarify that. But in this case, dialogue doesn't come first as you are trying to define it. The protest has its own set objective. We have an agenda, we have demands, we have clear and stated deliverables. We also have a timeline for which when the process will start and the first number of days it will take, and possibly several other days that will follow until the conditions are met. So this is a very well organized protest that is driven by data and is driven by technology and total commitment from a lot of Nigerians, both young and old.
Mr. Shawara, it makes me wonder, right? I wonder what you think about these bodies and civil societies and organizations who are, removing themselves and withdrawing support for the protest. What are your thoughts on those groups?
I've just addressed them. I don't know them. There's a lot of groups in Nigeria, armed force groups. Some of them don't exist except when there is a sabotage to be done. Some of them exist just created what you call special vehicle NGOs, and some of them are called NGIs, non-governmental individuals. So whenever there's an opportunity, these opportunities will show up and capitalize on it and make some quick bucks from it and move on with their lives. What I'm saying to you is that they were never part of any conversation. I've seen some of them. They were never part of those. You cannot pull out from a protest you're not part of the plan for. But you can say that you don't want protest. And that is their right too. They have a right to express a divergent opinion about how the rest of us, or a majority of Nigerians, want to go about addressing their social, political, and economic concerns.
Well, Mr. Shawara, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to warn you that this might spill over into the next hour because we have so much to discuss. We're also going to take a break somewhere in the middle here. But we do have the chairperson of one of those bodies here with us inside of the studio. I will direct a question to her only after we get back from this break. Let's take a short break. Back to this discussion in a minute.
And welcome back. Before the break, we were asking the question, is dialogue or protest the answer to good governance? And we had a panel of guests who has been discussing with us. But first, let's bring you the breakfast headlines. And we begin in West Africa, where Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the tightness in fuel supply and distribution is caused by a hitch in the discharge operations of a couple vessels. The NNPC Limited made this known on Saturday in a statement signed by Olufemi Shoneye, the company's chief corporate communications officer. Dangote Petroleum Refinery has refuted claims of reselling crude oil shipments following a report from a news outlet about operational challenges at the plant. The report claimed that technical problems had led the refinery to resell crude oil from the United States and Nigeria. It further alleged that the refinery was offering various grades of crude, including U.S. West Texas Intermediate, Midland, and Nigerian Escovas and Forcados crudes. And still on the oil and gas sector, the Owando PLC has denied allegations on social and digital media that it owns a blending plant in Malta. The energy company also denied importing dirty fuel into Nigeria through a Maltese company, Ras Hansa Oil, Terminal Limited. Now, a statement by the company secretary Ayotola Jagun said the allegations leveled against Owando of being a shareholder and its principals of being board members of Ras Hanser Oil and Terminal Limited, a company that operates an oil storage and blending facility responsible for importing adulterated petroleum products into Nigeria, were unfounded. And now to updates on the planned #EndBadGovernance protests in Nigeria. Credible information at the disposal of the Nigeria Police Force revealed that some foreign mercenaries are involved in the planned nationwide protest slated for August 1st. Now, this is according to the Inspector General of Police, Kaide Egbetokun, who briefed journalists in Abuja on Friday, asking all groups planning to participate in the demonstration to submit their details to the commissioners of police in their respective states. And still on the protest, the network of Abuja left groups has reiterated its resolve to join aggrieved youths across the country to express their grievances against bad governance by taking to the streets of the nation from August to the 1st. And that's August 1st to the 10th. The group spoke to newsmen in Abuja, saying the current administration has mismanaged the economy and should be held responsible for the hardship being faced by citizens. Amadin Uyi reports.
The group, known as the Network of Abuja Left Groups, comprising human rights advocates, called from several civil society organizations across the country. The group, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, expressed their displeasure at the state of the nation's economy and the current hardship being faced by citizens, accusing the current government.
The economy of the nation has witnessed a sharp decline ever since the emergence of the Tinubu administration. A bad situation has been made worse. I will cite this statistic to buttress our point. In February this year, Nigeria's inflation reached 32% year on year. Food inflation is 38% in the same February of this year.
Despite the rising cost of living, the minimum wage has remained stagnant, and the 70,000 naira currently agreed upon by the organized labor and the government is far lesser than 15% of the minimum wage cost of living for workers in Nigeria.
At this point, it is clear that the background of the excruciating pain and economic misery caused by the anti-people policies of the APC Tinubu government is so gross, so extreme, that it is wicked for any government to call for patience or sacrifice from the people at this point in time.
They say despite appeals for youths to shelve the planned protest, they will be coming out on the streets to exercise their fundamental rights on August the 1st.
We are saying that if Nigeria is going to be a democracy, Nigerians, the government should be urging Nigerians to exercise their rights to be citizens of their country, which is their right to protest.
The protest that is taking place on August 1, starting on August 1, every protester is a leader of that protest. And if they are asking that who are those that have mobilized for this protest, the simple answer is that it is the Tinubu government and the cronies of the government themselves who have mobilized for this protest through the economic hardship they've melted on Nigerians. Attempt to arrest or harass or intimidate protesters will not be accepted by us.
The group is urging all citizens currently being affected by the economic situation in the country to disregard appeals by governments and come out en masse on the streets. They say it remains their fundamental rights as citizens, one they will not be taken lightly. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
And now to security matters. The Nigeria government has secured the conviction of 125 Boko Haram suspects of terrorism offenses, including terrorism financing. The Federal High Court handed down the conviction in a mass trial held at the Military Detention Center facility, in Kanji, Niger State. The trial, conducted over 2 days, saw defendants face charges ranging from financing terrorism to committing crimes under the International Criminal Court (ICC) status. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice AGF Lateef Fagbemi announced the convictions through a statement released by his spokesperson Kamaruddin Ogundele. Away from that now, the Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taruddin Lagbaja, has urged troops of the Nigerian Army to continuously uphold the attributes of the Army in the discharge of their duties. The Army Chief added that with such notion and determination, their mandate will be achieved within their areas of joint operation. Lieutenant General Lagbaja was represented by the Deputy Director, Army Training, Major General Musa Etsu Ndagi, at the closing ceremony of the 2024 Nigerian Army Interdivision Combat Plateau Obstacle Crossing competition. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe was there and now tells us more.
The 2024 edition of the yearly competition began 3 days ago with a display of different obstacle crossing skills by troops of the Nigerian Army.
Show of strength, endurance, skill.
The smoke, mortar bomb bangs, explosions, and small arms fire were all part of battle simulation, which the troops are expected to encounter in real battle combat situations. At the show of dexterity during the obstacle crossing competition, the Chief of Army Staff had this to say.
I see a body of troops who have shown dexterity in the art of obstacle crossing. And I appreciate you all for your display of physical fitness, endurance, team spirit, leadership, cohesion, and cooperation, among other attributes.
8 formations had gathered on the plateau from different parts of the country for this course, where the Army Headquarters Garrison came third. 2 Division was the runner-up, while the host, 3 Armored Division, came tops with 1,000 points.
The winning formation is 3 Division Nigerian Army. It's getting close. Now it's just who wants it most. Stand up for the champions.
General Officer Commanding of the Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, was elated at his troops' performance. This further presumes that the need for constant training of troops has become pertinent if the security of Nigerians will remain in the hands of these men and women.
Commanders are to periodically engage their personnel in obstacle training while also maintaining their obstacle courses to keep them in top form. This, no doubt, will brighten the prospects of achieving better outcomes in subsequent obstacle crossing competitions and in our operations.
And that brings to a close this year's competition, and it is hoped that the objectives of the Nigerian Army have been achieved. From the 3 Division Physical Training Ground in Jos, Chizoba Anyonwe reporting for News Central.
And that's all we can take for the breakfast headlines. There's more at the top of the hour at 5 p.m. It's now time for us to switch back our gears to our big story as we're asking the very pertinent question, which is protest or dialogue? Which is the answer to good governance? And joining us live in the studio is our guest. We've been discussing with them from earlier on. On Zoom is Mr. Showore. He's a politician and activist, and he joins us live via video chat. Mr. Showore, many thanks for being patient and joining us. We also have with us live in the studio. She is Ekundayo Titilayo Dorcas. She's the chairperson of the National Female Student Association of Nigeria and a SAN Lagos chapter. We also did have earlier Mr. Boyega Akoshile, who's the SA to the governor of Lagos State on media and publicity. I'm sure he's going to join us.
Yeah, he'll be rejoining us
soon. This conversation.
Just before we went on that break and then the news, I did say that we're going to come back, and also we have representing one of the bodies that have pulled out of the protests here with us, and that's talking about Ms. Titilayo here in the studio. But before that, we also talked about something. Wanted to go back to the conversation from Mr. Showore regarding the groups, the faceless groups, in quote, who have dropped out. However, Mr. Showore, I just wanted to read some of the groups that have joined, or rather that have dropped out. And we're talking about groups like the National Association of Lagos State Students, the National Association of University Students, the Lagos State Chapter, National Association of Polytechnic Students, and also, to name a few, National Female Students Association of Nigeria, of which we have the chairperson here with us by name of Titilayo Ekundayo. So I'm going to be asking Titilayo now a very interesting question, which is, first off, let's get your take on this. Why exactly is your association pulling out of the mass protest for August 1st?
All right, good morning. First and foremost, I would like to appreciate this program. And secondly, my association is actually pulling out of this protest because we have no association with a set of people who organize this protest.
Who are the people organizing the protest?
We don't even know them in quotes.
So why did you say you don't have association with them?
Yeah, because they call themselves Nigerian youths and they are centering their protest to Lagos. And Lagos is a peaceful state. I am the chairperson of the female students here in Lagos State, and we have the 3 C's. Before we can confront, we need to consult and consolidate. And after consulting and consolidation, I don't think we have the potential to go into confrontation, which is the protest.
Don't you think that Lagos has this main character energy that it constantly has? The conversation about protests has been on a nationwide stance. If that means, because we saw the governor call traditional rulers from all the geopolitical zones in Nigeria, we saw them call all the chief heads, we saw them, they saw the presidency speak to all of the governors from the APC forum. So why do you think it's just only Lagos? Because I noticed that the entire groups who have pulled out are mostly Lagos chapters.
Yes, mostly Lagos, because here in Lagos, I don't think there is this much hardship here in Lagos. Because
so there's no hardship in Lagos?
Yes, there is, but I think the governor has been working towards that, because recently there is something like Onjeiko that the governor put in place for all Lagos states to be able to benefit from it, thereby reducing the hardship in Lagos.
So you think that Lagos is insulated from the hardship that they...
No, don't quote me there.
No, you said, no, I'm not misquoting. I want to be clear, because you said Lagos is not experiencing hardship like the rest of Nigeria.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Yes.
And then you said that the Lagos has been doing initiative. One of them is Onjeoko.
Yes.
So I asked again, so does that mean that we're insulated from the rest of the things that Nigerians are facing?
Yes.
And so you don't think that Lagosians are
Yes,
out protesting?
yes, because looking at it, there have been more protests in Nigeria and it hasn't led to anywhere. Rather, we have vandalization of the government's properties. Some of the protests that happened years back, we have the protests during the June 12th, we have the protests during Goodluck Jonathan's regime, and this recent protest of the NSAS, which most of our youth actually died. So I would think, instead of the youth going into the protest, why not form a body and have a tete-a-tete with the government? Because during dialogue, it's still better than this protest whereby we'll be losing our youth.
Mr. Showore said that most of the youth, most of the groups that pulled out are groups that are just formed. How long has your association been on?
The association has been on here for over 5 years.
So it's been existing for 5 years?
Yes.
So if I count that back, that should be 2019?
Yes.
How long have you been in school?
I got admission in 2019, so I'm in my final year.
So you were among the organization that formed it?
No,
That's
I
why
wasn't
you're
part of the
president.
organizations that formed it,
So
but I'm a member of the
When did you
association.
when did you assume presidency of the organization?
I assumed my position January this year as the chairperson.
Thank you so much.
I'm very curious as to exactly what other things your association had been or is known for doing from before now. But let's come back to Mr. Shore. Mr. Shore, so now the question is if the youth are ripe for dialogue. However, many bodies have called for the youth to have well, at least an agenda, a request. What exactly are they looking? Sort of like a destination. After all, how do you know where you're going, or if you've gotten to where you're going if you don't have a destination? What do you have to say regarding this request for a list of demands from the youth?
Well, let me first and foremost respond to the station and the young lady, Titulayo. I don't think it's fair, and I mean it, to be throwing young persons like this who are still at formative ages of ideas in national issues the way you have done it. It's unfair to her. Apparently, if somebody just didn't even properly prep her and you just throw her on national TV, the whole world is going to be watching. Some years down the line, this person is not going to feel happy that she's unable to defend herself. She has already said it, in all fairness to her, that they were not part of the planners, that they don't know them, and that the planners are faceless. So, and that was what I was saying earlier, that they were not part of people who planned this. They weren't part of, they don't even know what it's all about. You know, somebody just asked them to go to your state studio and go and debunk something, and she's struggling with this. And instead of being upset with her, I'm upset with the station for not doing their background job. Bring people who understand what national issues are. These are young persons whose future I am trying to protect. As she has told you, she just got into university 2019. By 2019, I was already in detention under the Buhari regime. She's new to all these issues. She's new to the troubles of Nigeria. And there's no point throwing these little interesting young people before national audiences where they will look back years later, their children will start blaming them. Mommy, why did you do this? Why did you allow yourself to be put before national audience without preparing yourself or understanding even what the issues are? So having said that, the demands are clear. This station has read the demands before to me. The entire country is aware of the demands. On our side, we presented 15 clear demands. I would say that non-negotiable. And all of this has been available to the government. And I also wanted to let you know that we actually began relating with the government on certain aspects of procedures for the protest. We got a lawyer, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mwade Borua, who was a former student union president of Obafemi Awolowo University, to write to the police and the DSS, asking them to submit the names of DSS and police officers or the army who are going to be involved. The army has no business, by the way, in engaging in any form of process in this protest. The army has no business in internal affairs of the country. But we'll talk about that later. And he has written to them. Our Abuja colleagues also wrote to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory to allow the protesters to camp out at the Eagle Square. So these are all procedural formats that's going to lead to August 1. So when they're saying people are faceless, how can somebody be faceless and they write to the minister? How can somebody be faceless and they have a senior advocate of Nigeria writing to the IG of police, who has also responded because they know these groups are not faceless. These are very credible, high integrity individuals who want to protect the future of our young people, including the lady you had on the armchair in your office, who, by the way, I appreciate for coming here today.
Yeah,
I just wish that she was not misled to come here today.
No, Mr. Shore, I'd like to address that. Now, this is a sample of the people we're talking about. This is a sample of the people who are going out there on August 1st to go protest. These are the people that Nigeria is actually listening to right now. Everything else has come to a halt. We're not talking about River State. We're not talking about Kano Emirates. We're not talking. Everybody has their focus on the youth. Whether you like it or not, these are the people, whether their ideas are fully formed or immature, these are the people that are right now in the center of everything that's happening. So her as a representative, I believe she also needs this platform as well to express her view as well and that of her association. And I do appreciate what you say about the young lady here, but let's focus on the fact that these are the youth. And here, well, we are providing that platform for everybody to have, well, the same amount or equal amount of an avenue to express themselves.
I must also add that she wasn't coerced to be here. We sent an invitation to all of these groups who have pulled out of the protest, and they said that they are Nigerian youths, in quotation marks there, and they do not know or identify with other Nigerian youths from her submission, as you can hear. And so we extended that invitation, to which she accepted to be here. And these questions are very important. As media, these questions are important to be asked in terms of, why are you pulling out? Who is your organization? You represent the face of this organization. What are your views? I think that, they can either, and she had the choice to either say, no, I'm not going to come, and yes, I'm going to come.
So let's refocus now and let's ask the very important questions. We want to take example from what's happening inside of Kenya. The youth have also have made their voices heard. The Kenyan government, especially the president, has acceded to plenty of their demands, but yet the protest continues to go on. The question regarding Kenya now is exactly where does the buck stop? Where would the compromise be? Ruto has had this instance from before with the doctor strikes and now with the youth. So in the Nigerian instance, where are we going to protest up until before we meet a round table where people can actually come, converge, discuss? Mr. Shoro.
I mentioned, yes, I mentioned to you that the demands for this protest has been established. There are 15 of them in number from our end, and the entire country is aware of it. I'm hoping that you are aware of it. You have read these demands before, because I've been on a show here before, and I hear it all the time because I watch a show online, and I'm aware that everybody's aware. But so the way the demands are framed are such that there are 15 non-negotiable demands listed 1 to 5 and 1 to 15, and until those are met, there's no negotiation. That has been established. And the government is aware of these positions, they're aware of these issues, that we are not protesting because we are looking for negotiation, all right? We are revolting because we want to negotiate our liberty and freedom. That is what has been made very clear as to the way forward. And just briefly again on the young lady, please, I did not intend to embarrass her. If she felt embarrassed, I apologize. I just felt like she was so truthful in saying that she was never part of the protest.
Thank you very much.
And there was no business to have brought her here to be asking her why she's pulling out. What happened in Lagos with them, and I hope she will join after this, because I'm very happy that she's getting very educated about what's happening. What is happening? What happened is that the Lagos state government brought them to a meeting, all the students. I have the letter here from one of them apologizing to Nigerians. They never told them they were coming to denounce protests. It was when they got to the protest that they were coupled together in a room, and then they were told to pull out from the protest. They never knew. These guys were naively put together. And now she's on national TV. Like I said, I apologize to her if she feels embarrassed. But I just don't want a situation where we as adults don't do our due diligence and we put people in situations that will embarrass them for the rest of their lives. That's all I'm concerned about. But please, apologies to her.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have with us, joining via video chat, Mr. Gboyega Akosile. He is the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on media and publicity. Mr. Akosile, you're welcome. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Mr. Akosile, very good morning to you. Let me also bring you into this conversation. from earlier guests in the studio, Titilayo Dorcas Akundayo, I said that Lagos State sometimes always seems to be the center, given even its slogan, Center for Excellence, it is always a center for things like this. And there's been concerns about the protests melting into violence. So given experiences or events from earlier, what steps is Lagos State taking to address the grievances of the youth? And how can you ensure or plan to ensure that this doesn't melt down to anarchy and chaos?
Thank you very much. It's no brainer. Lagos is the center of everything. All that. The primary target has been Lagos. Maybe in the past couple of years, Abuja always been Lagos. Now, and the reason is not far-fetched. If you look at the way Lagos is the center of business, commercial activities in the country, and everything. Trade and all that, and of course, is the most cosmopolitan city in Nigeria, where you have all manners of people, all ethnic groups. There is no ethnic group that is not fairly represented in Lagos. None. All ethnic groups are well represented here in Lagos. So it's from strategic point of view. If I were planning a protest, I would naturally target Lagos, because Lagos is the hub of media, where the international media will be focusing, where everybody will be focusing. So my brother, the comrade knows. I mean, those of us who come from journalism background, and we know all of these things. So we know that where you target is where people like us will want to get our content, where we'll get our reportage, so that we can report adequately. So Lagos is usually the focus. And if you go into our past history, it didn't start today. From time immemorial, from the days of the south, the west here, the southwest of Nigeria usually was the major, place for agitation. The days of the Ganifa Wahimis of this world, the Olisa Agbakoba, when even some of us joined in protests in those days. But the most important thing that we need to take out is very simple. And there are two things. Where I stand, because I advise, and I'm a media person, where I stand is very simple. You cannot stop people from protesting. Nowhere in the world. Section 20 of the Constitution of Nigeria is very explicit about the freedom to assemble non-violently, freedom to assemble and express how you feel about government. Whether you feel good or you feel bad about the government, you are entitled to that assemblage. You understand? So the people can protest, but what we are saying, which is a major concern, is that if you look at the way protests have been in the last couple of years, the tonality of the protests have been such that it has to be violent. No, that's not right.
So with all the intelligence,
right. And that's why, let me answer my question.
Right.
Let me land with the question. So that is not right. So what this state government is saying, Lagos State is working, everybody knows, except one who lie about that. But this thing is about the federal. It's not about any state. It's general. Now, if you want to protest, because you're also a component part of the federal, You understand? If you want to protest in Lagos, please ensure that it is orderly and it is done in such a way that you don't infringe on another person's rights. One, you do not tamper with people's, sources of livelihood, because they also have rights. You do not tamper with government infrastructure. So these are some of the areas that the organizers of protests need to talk to their followers and protesters alike. That look, this protest is about we expressing ourselves. They say it is bad, end bad governance or end bad government. I don't know which one of the two, because I have, my analysis of, when you want to end a government. I mean, there are constitutional ways of ending a government. But if you're saying bad governance, there are ways you also go about that. But, that's, left for those, that are handling all of that. But for us, as a state, what we've been doing is to continue to assuage the feelings of the people, is to continue to engage. Mr. Governor has been engaging a lot of people, a broad spectrum of individuals, from the market men and women and people, from local government chairmen, from CDCs and CDAs, from civil societies, organizations, to self-determination organization, to the youth, to students, to everybody that look. And the message of the governor is always very clear. Nobody is going to stop anybody from protest. We never even said it. At no point I write for the governor. No, I never, type anything that please, or you can't protest. No, nobody. I mean, I
we need to move on,
Mr.
Akosile, if you do not mind.
So nobody's. It's just that make sure that it is within the confines of the law, and don't do anything that will throw up violence. That's just it. It's protest. Now, protest can be fun.
Mr. Akosile, thank you. Although you didn't answer my latter part of that question, but we're going to get into that. In the meantime, let me switch gears to Mr. Showore. But first, I would like to get a reaction from Dorcas, right? Because I know that from understanding, you said that you wanted to respond to something that he said. And he said that there was a letter that he has, and that students associations pulled out after a meeting with certain representatives of the government. You'd like to respond to that. But what university are you at?
I'm from Lagos State University.
All right, fantastic. Please
Okay, so Mr. Showore, if I'm not mistaken, I would like to tell you that I'm representing a female student. I'm not representing the female youth, but the female students. So I'm speaking...
Students of University of Lagos. Yes. Lagos State University,
yes.
LASU.
Not only LASU, but the 10 universities in Lagos State.
The 10 universities
in Lagos State. So I'm representing them now.
How many are your membership?
We have students from all, representative across all schools in Lagos.
How many are they?
10.
10. How many are your members?
We have over 50 million. We have over 50,000 female students in Lagos State. So they
are all members of your...
Yes.
Because I'm not... When I was in university, I didn't register with all of the association. So how many are your members?
In as much as you're a female student, you're a member of the association. Even if you are participating or not, you're a member of the association.
Okay, gotcha.
So in as much as you're a female student, just as we have the NANS, in as much as you're a student, you're a member of the NANS. You don't need to participate with their activities. But what I would like to say is the meeting that was held was to discuss about the universities in Lagos, our progress, and the things that we are to do. So now, we find out, during the conversation, we heard there are some set of people that are coming up with a protest, and we're like, we are not in support of that. Lagos State is safe and calm. With the students in Lagos State, whatever we need, we are requesting from the governor, and he's giving it to us. And of recent, we now have a student loan, of which we students have access to the loan. So I think we students do not even need the protest. Looking at it, protest would only lead to vandalization of the government's properties, and even we, the citizen, our lives is at stake. Because after the protest, what ends after the protest?
You said that you have access to loans. You know anyone who's gotten the loans? You know any person from your membership, from your association who's had taken a loan?
Right now, I don't know anyone, but my HOD actually sent me the link of how I can access the loan, and he sent it to me to send it to all students.
Do you know anyone who's applied?
Yes, I know some of my classmates who applied.
Okay.
And I know definitely they will actually get the grants in as much they can fulfill.
Yeah.
Yes, in as much as they can fulfill the
We're running out of time, so I'm going to come back to Mr. Shore. Mr. Shore, there have been arguments about the leaders or proponents of the protests that will be holding in August, and talks about most of them not even being inside of Nigeria. What do you have to say about this?
Well, this is an irrelevant position, and I discussed that with one of your reporters last week. And the moment I finished, they cut that part out, and they're paying ₦1 million or close to it for bloggers who said our show is not in Nigeria. It's irrelevant. We live in a global era. The world is now a global village. And anybody who is in Nigeria, wherever they might find themselves, is at liberty to participate in any issue affecting his country. And I want to bring it back to your notice that the person who is president of Nigeria today, Bola Tinubu, was engaging in not only just protests. They went abroad. Himself, Professor Wole Soyinka, Fayemi, and the rest of them. We're all together at that time, not together as in being in the same room, but we all believed in the pro-democracy struggle. They even set up a radio station abroad, broadcasting into Nigeria illegally, as the military described it then, about the struggle for democracy. So it's really in South Africa, when they wanted to fight apartheid, some people left and some people were inside. And they were working. The most important thing is to focus on how to defeat oppression. And the theory of where you should be on protest day is dependent on situational variables. I can be in Nigeria anytime I want to. How are you talking to me today? Virtually, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it that we're able to talk virtually? Because there is technology that's digital in nature that allows that to happen. And I am also not only a Nigerian, I'm a member of the Nigerian diaspora, having been away from Nigeria since 1999. And you remember, I came back to Nigeria in 2019 to lead a protest, because I've led several protests in my life. I could count up to 200 of them. And I was arrested and restricted to Nigeria for 5 years. I came back March this year after the federal government withdrew their charges shamefully before an Abuja Federal High Court and gave me back my passport. You know, having done that, I arrived here and went back again on May 1st and 2nd to attend to another trial in Abuja on another trumped-up charge brought against me by the police on behalf of Senator Ned Nwoko. While I was in Nigeria, I organized a protest at the police headquarters to free a journalist, Daniel Ojukwu, of FIJ, Foundation for Investigative Journalism. And he got freed before I left. So I am at liberty, and any Nigerians at liberty, to get involved in Nigerian matters from wherever they want, at any time they want. The unnecessary conversation about where you're located, I know where you guys are headed. It is to continue to boost
well, Mr. Shawara, we asked the questions. We're not necessarily taking any position. Most of the comments that you've made are a bit salty, but we'll take it. I would like to see if Mr. Akosile has a response to that, or maybe even a response to the question I asked him before.
I decided to come here on your show because I want to express myself. You cannot shut me up. If you don't want me to express myself, you can just close the Zoom.
Oh, absolutely. We can't shut you up, please.
Exactly.
Mr. Shore,
I'm here to express myself, and I'm not new to this. I'm a journalist like you too, so you can't shut me up. You have to let me express myself. If you bring me here So what I'm saying to you is that those things are relevant. Our focus is that we want to defeat oppression. We don't want to continue to have people in government who don't know what they are doing. I don't want to be hearing propaganda that Lagos is the center of excellence when after 2 hours of rain, Lagos goes underwater. And if you are not a scuba diver, you can't survive in Lagos. But that's a conversation for another day. We're here to talk about the nationwide protest that's in plan for August 1st, what I call a revolt against bad governance in Nigeria. And that is why you must be fully aware that everybody is interested in this. The whole world is focusing on Nigeria already, looking forward to Thursday next week, I think August 1st, to see how Nigerians from all walks of life, both at home and abroad, engage in this global battle to defeat bad governance in Nigeria. And I want to say just quickly that when you're talking about, I think Akoshile was saying, they don't know whether it's end bad government or end bad governance. There's no difference between bad government and bad governance, because it's bad government that operates bad governments that operates bad governance. So if you defeat one, you've defeated the other.
Let's switch gears now to Mr. Boyega Koshile. Mr. Boyega, are you with us? Do you have any response to Mr. Showere's submission there? And while at it, we've established that the protests may result to unrest, and we've also established that it's the right of the citizens to go out to demonstrate peacefully. So how then would Lagos State ensure the safety of lives and properties from the 1st to the 10th of August?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So one thing that I don't like about when people come on air or when people speak about protests and all that is, and they talk about rights. They don't talk about another person's rights. You want to protest, it is your inalienable right. I always say it, and my friends are saying me here today. I belong to different journalist groups. They know what I write in all of those groups. I always advocate for citizens' rights, not because I'm on air, not because I'm trying to defend, my own government. No, it is me. If you know my background, then you know that I'm a non-conformist as a person. That's my, default setting. However, when you are talking about your rights, you should also think about my own rights too. Because your right stops where my rights begin. Now, if you have a right to protest, it must be peaceful protest. You should also think about me, that I do not want to protest. I'm not saying me, I'm just using me as an example now. So you as a Nigerian, you want to protest, you should also think about another Nigerian who does not want to protest, who just wants to go about his lawful business on those days. Now, should your own protest impede his movements? Should your own protest stop him from accessing his own means of livelihood? Should your own protest, if my wife is pregnant and is about to be delivered of a baby or babies, and I'm taking them to the hospital, should your protest block the road from allowing me access the hospital? And in that process, something may happen to my wife and the unborn children. We need to think about all of this. Like I keep repeating, nobody will say don't protest. It is your right to protest. But the same right that you have is what other people do have. The young woman that is in the studio said they are not going to join the protest. And I've been reading that, and Shoria also said it, that you cannot pull out of what you were not part of. The question is, the people that, will be mobilized, will be coming out to protest, are they members of Shore's group or the organizations or different organizations that come? No. Protests are usually called by some individuals, and others begin to join. And we know that the soft target is usually the student groups. And these student groups in Lagos said, look, we are not going to be part of it. We are not going to be part of it because Lagos is working. This governor has done so much for us. The least we can do is to continue to study and make Lagos proud. My friend said the other time that, the matter of Lagos, underwater, when there's 2 hours rain, Lagos will be underwater and all of that. Well, ignorance is very, very, very expensive. It's unfortunate. I just pity. It's sad, because if you don't know that, the position of Lagos, that is surrounded by water, and what is happening globally with the environment, you wouldn't be saying that. And of course,
Mr. Akoshile, we're pressed for time. We're pressed for time, so I have to ask again: how then can the government? We're pressed for time.
Torrential rainfall, Lagos, and the flood in Lagos does not, start. It does not last for 1 hour.
Okay, Mr. Akoshile, we're pressed for time, so I'll ask again. It is the duty of the government and security forces, agencies, to ensure that lives and properties are protected. That is the duty. It's also, as you said, your right ends when another one starts. We've established both entities. How then can there be a merger that as the citizens are protesting, their lives are being protected? In less than a minute.
I'll come to that very, very, very in a plain language. It is the duty of the security agencies to protect everybody, protesters and non-protesters. So I know that, the governor had a security meeting a couple of days ago, and this matter, came to the front burner. And the governor was of the opinion that everybody must be protected. The rights of everybody must be guaranteed. However, there must be a caveat. If anybody attempts to foment trouble, what do you think the security personnel should do?
All right. Mr. Akoshile, we're going to leave it here, but many thanks for your submission. We want to say thank you to our entire panel of discussion, the panel of guests today who's given us quite the insight from here in the studio. Titilayo Dorcas Okundayo, she is part of a student body who have withdrawn from the protest. We also had Mr. Omoye Leshowore live joining us via video chat. He's a politician and activist who joined us today. And we also have with us Mr. Boyega Akoshile. He's the media special assistant or special advisor to the governor of Lagos State on media and publicity. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do stay tuned. We've still got more than an hour to go here for Breakfast Extra as we bring you more on the table.
Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Extra. Time to take you to the world of sports. The Olympics is on, and we can tell you that Nigeria's Aruna Quadri has been knocked out of the round of 64 for the men's singles table tennis event by Eduard Ionescu of Romania in a comeback game ending 4-3 in Paris 2024 Olympic table tennis event. Aruna, who is competing at his 4th consecutive Olympic Games, lost a game in the 7th set after leading the charge of the first 3 sets, dominating in style with sequence of 11-8, 11-9, 11-6 before the Romanian teenager came from behind to win the game 4-3. Meanwhile, 2-time Olympian Omotayo Lajide also suffered an early exit in his Olympic campaign in the preliminary round of the men's singles table tennis event, losing 1-4 to Naushad Almayan of Iran. Moving away from that, Super Falcons will be hoping to get their first win in the women's football event at the Paris 2024 Olympics when they take on world champions Spain in their second Group C game at the Stade de la Bayeux in Nantes for today. Now, Randy Waldrum's ladies suffered a 1-0 defeat to Brazil in their opening game at the Manot Atlantic Stadium in Bordeaux on Thursday, with Gabi Nunes scoring the decisive goal in the 34th minute to condemn Nigeria to their first competitive defeat in regulation time, or since losing to Zambia in the third-place playoff of the 2022 African Cup of Nations, making their first appearance in the competition since featuring in 3 consecutive Olympics from 2000 to 2008. The Falcons are looking to reach the knockout rounds for the second time after achieving the feat in 2004 edition. To achieve that, the 9-time African champions, they must, of course, have to win their game against the Spaniards, who will be aiming for a second consecutive win at the Paris Olympic Games. Now to men's football. Spain are through to the last 8 of the Paris Olympic football tournament after defeating Dominican Republic 3-1 to claim their second win in Group C. Goals from Perrin Lopez, Argentina. They bounced back from the chaos of the opening defeat in the Olympic men's football event, beating Iraq 3-1 on Saturday. Goals from Thiago. Moving away from that to basketball, where French center Victor Wembanyama, he scored a joint time-high 19 points as host France, they shrugged off a slow start to beat Brazil 78-66 in the opening game of the Olympic basketball event on Saturday. Meanwhile, in the Olympic rugby event, host France, they ran out a 28-7 winner over reigning 2-time Olympic Rugby Sevens champion Fiji in a pulsating final at the frenzied Stade de France. Of course, it was all about the host nation, inspired by Antoine Dupuit, in which he scored twice and created another try to inflict Fiji their first loss at the Olympic Games. Meanwhile, haven't gotten into the competition by securing the last possible qualification spot last month and also then losing the first 2 pool matches. The South Africans pulled off the most remarkable of comebacks to clinch the bronze medal. African country in the medal standing. Talking about that medal standing, to wrap up all action from Saturday in the Olympic Games, Team Australia, they secured 3 gold medals and 2 silver medals at the Paris Olympic Games, ongoing right now. So they are leading the pack right now at the medal standings. We've got the People's Republic of China in second position right now after amassing 3 medals, 2 gold and 1 bronze. From that gold, we have a shooter. She came off being the best shooter of all time to give China the first gold and also pick up the first gold medal at the Paris Olympic Games. We have an African country there. Of course, you can see not in the top 10 or top 12, but we've got South Africa. That bronze medal they picked up from the Rugby Sevens event made Africa to be on the medal table. So just rest your horses. You would see Africa when the athletics begin. You know that Africa would take dominance in the medal table, and Nigeria for sure would not be left out with our golden girls. All right, this is where we are wrapping up in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Catch more action on In the Game at 11 a.m. West African time. And we'll be handing over right now to Adebola, the news anchor.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adeduba. We begin in West Africa, where Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the tightness in fuel supply and distribution is caused by a hitch in the discharge operations of a couple of vessels. The NNPC Limited made this known on Saturday in a statement signed by Olufemi Shoneye, the company's chief corporate communications officer. Dangote Refinery has debunked claims of reselling crude oil shipments following a report from a news outlet about operational challenges at the plant. The report claimed that technical problems had led the refinery to resell crude oil from the United States and Nigeria. It further alleged that the refinery was offering various grades of crude, including U.S. West Texas Intermediate, Midland, and Nigerian Escravos and Forcados crudes. In the meantime, Oando PLC has denied allegations on social and digital media that it owns a blending plant in Malta. The energy company also denied importing dirty fuel into Nigeria through a Maltese company, Ras Hanse Oil Terminal Limited. A statement by the company's secretary, Ayotola Jagun, said the allegations leveled against Oando of being a shareholder and its principal of being board members of Ras Hanse Oil Terminal Limited, a company that operates an oil storage and blending facility responsible for importing adulterated petroleum products into Nigeria, were unfounded. And to updates on the planned End Bad Governance protests in Nigeria, credible information at disposal of the Nigeria Police Force revealed that some foreign mercenaries are involved in the planned nationwide protest slated for August 1st. According to the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, who briefed journalists in Abuja on Friday, asking all groups planning to participate in a demonstration to submit their details to the commissioners of police in their respective states. And on to security matters. The Nigerian government has secured the conviction of 125 Boko Haram suspects of terrorism offenses, including terrorism financing. The Federal High Court handed down the conviction in a mass trial held at a military detention facility in Kanji, Niger State. The trial, conducted over 2 days, saw defendants face charges ranging from financing terrorism to committing crimes under the International Criminal Court's ICC statutes. And still in West Africa, Ghana's main opposition party has launched its presidential campaign on Saturday, 5 months ahead of the December 7 vote, with a rally in its Tamil stronghold in the north. John Mahama, the country's former president and leader of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, together with vice presidential running mate Jaina Akpoko, addressed thousands of supporters. Criticizing the government's handling of the economy, Mahama promised to eradicate corruption and said his first priority is going to be job creation for the teeming youth in the country. Mali's army and its Russian allies have suffered a major setback and significant losses on Saturday while fighting separatists in the country's north. The West African nation's military leaders that took power in 2020 coup have made it a priority to retake all of the country from separatist and jihadist forces, particularly in Kidal, a pro-independence northern bastion. And finally, in East Africa, we have besieged Sudanese paramilitary forces pounded the El Fasher on Saturday, killing 22 and wounded at least 17 people in Darfur's last city outside their control. A doctor at the city's Saudi hospital who confirmed the attack said livestock markets and the Radief neighborhood were bombarded. El Fasher has become a key battleground in the 15-month-long war, pitting the paramilitary rapid support forces against the regular army. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Judith and Mazino.
Welcome again. And this time on a big story where we, well, take a look at some pressing issues impacting Nigeria today. And this one very important. The Nigerian government is currently considering suspending the 20% sugar tax on sweetened beverages, a policy initially implemented to curb excessive sugar consumption and generate revenue for public health initiatives. This potential suspension has sparked a heated debate over the implications of the country's economy and health, particularly as Nigeria grapples with high rates of obesity and diabetes. Supporters argue that lifting the tax could provide relief to the beverage industry, which has faced increased production costs, while critics warn that it may undermine efforts to promote, well, healthier lifestyles among Nigerians.
And so the potential suspension raises critical questions about the balance between economic growth and public health. The social tax was expected to generate significant revenue for the government, funds that could have been allocated to healthcare services and awareness campaigns. However, with rising inflation and cost of living challenges, many Nigerians feel the pinch and the government faces pressure to ease the financial burden on both businesses and consumers. And so this debate highlights a broader tension between fiscal policy and health outcomes, challenging policymakers to find solutions that benefit both sectors. And so to provide deeper insights into economic implications of this policy shift, we're joined by our guest in the studio, Agogo Udi. He's an esteemed economic analyst with Nairametrics, and he's here. He wrote a bit about this issue on the Nairametrics platform, and he's now here to give us more insight on this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Agogo, good morning. Good
Thank
to
you for
have
having me.
I mean, I would like to start by saying, you know, how would the suspension of the sugar tax affect, you know, Nigerians, especially when it comes to the economy in terms of revenue generation and beverages industries, especially?
Well, the tax is just a 10 naira tax on per liter of what we call SSB, sweetened sugar beverages. I think it was it started with the Finance Act of 2021. I think it was former President Buhari that brought it on board. And the goal was just to should I say, reduce sugar consumption in the country, especially with rising diabetes rates and all of that. So I think that's it. But in recent times, we've seen that the beverage industry, including manufacturers and all of that, have borne the brunt of recent economic reforms in this country. So I think the president or the federal government or the presidency is considering suspension of the tax to sort of provide a breathing space for them because they've borne the brunt of increased energy costs in terms of electricity tariff hike, exchange rates, interest rate hike, and all of that. So I think that the federal government is looking for a leeway. I think, but when the Minister of Finance was speaking then, he said it's temporary, that it might be introduced later on after there seems to be sort of stability and balance in the economy.
But I wanted to also really get to understand this sugar tax. It's 10% per liter.
No, it's 10 naira.
10 naira,
per
rather.
liter.
10 naira per liter. So if your average drink is what, 35 cl, it's not up to 10% per bottle. The
No.
10 naira per bottle is not up to.
it's not.
Now, the money is being extracted or the tax is being paid for each liter. Where does the money go? Who benefits from that? How does the government use it?
Okay, the goal, we can't trace where these funds actually end up, but the goal, according to the policy or the Finance Act, then was to fund healthcare initiatives for building facilities for, it's not just diabetes, general non-communicable diseases like perhaps some heart infections, obesity, and all of that. So not just diabetes. I think it was geared towards that aspect and healthcare general, but we might not know where the funds are channeled to in the long run. Yeah,
Because Nigeria and our issue with transparency, isn't it?
it's not actually about transparency. It might be that they might just channel that from health sector to perhaps infrastructure or education or something like that.
Now, you talked about, you know, the obesity and the obesity debate in Nigeria and healthcare itself. I'd like for you to talk a bit more on how this would impact consumer behavior. Would there be a slight hike in price of sugar products? Would that somewhat help minimize our consumer behavior where we're purchasing and seeing all the sugar beverages in event centers and all the likes?
Well, I think the tax had been implemented sometime around 2022, although it was signed in 2021, but the implementation was signed in 2022, and there have not been any study to actually see perhaps a decline in consumption as a result of the increase in the tax. And the tax is pretty marginal. 10 naira per liter is pretty marginal. I don't think it's going to, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to shift or influence consumer behavior in the long run. I think that's why those in that sector, advocates in that sector, the health sector, are saying, oh, it should be increased to like 10%, 20%. So, because in that rate, studies in other countries like South Africa and I think one of this, Mexico and all of that, when they increased the sugar tax to like 10%, 15%, 20%, they saw a significant decline in consumption of sugar beverages.
Do you see that happening in Nigeria?
Well, there are a lot of stakeholders that, should I say, put pressure on government for their own interests. So perhaps we've seen perhaps the organized private sector manufacturers and those in the beverage industry will always kick against things like that because it's business and they make money from business. So, and they also have legitimate reasons for that. For example, the diabetes, total number of people with diabetes in Nigeria estimates though between 10 to 12 million, which is like it's just 6% of the general population of like 200 million. And in some countries like the UK, they have diabetes at 11%, the US at 11%, China 10%, India, and so on. So most of them are around double digits, while a lot of Nigeria is single digits. And also, I think the World Health Organization also said that consumption of sugar per capita in Nigeria is just around 8 kilograms, which is below the global average of 9 kilograms. So they have legitimate reasons to say, okay, we are still below the general consumption.
One wonders exactly what the aim was from 2021. You said since when
it was introduced in the Finance Act of 2021.
Yes. Yeah. So if these taxes have been introduced, where did the money go? Plenty of people argue that it should have gone to the health sector to help people, especially living with diabetes and all of the rest, sugar influence type of diseases, because they complain currently of a situation where prices in medication has skyrocketed and they have no way to live their lives without these drugs. So was there no concession given to these taxes being used for specific medical reasons, like to help aid people living with these diseases?
We can't tell for now because we don't know the total amount of money that was generated from that. So we can't actually tell if it was actually, perhaps it was probably used in funding those initiatives. It might just be that the figure, the amount was insufficient to actually meet their needs and all of that.
You said that our consumption of sugar is like a percentile below than world.
Nigeria's per capita sugar consumption is 8 kg, which is below the average, global average of 9 kg.
So just 1 kg
Yes, 1 kg below, yeah.
And it makes me wonder, is it because of the socio-economic status of Nigerians? Not everyone can afford to have a soft drink with every meal or go out to get the sugary beverages. Do you think that is the case, or is it because of the regulatory for a certain amount of sugar for each drink?
Perhaps we can say both. Two truths can coexist at the same time. So it might be it might be lifestyle. Some people don't take a lot of sugar. I think there's also a lot of advocacy around it. So people tend to reduce their consumption, perhaps once a month, once a week, and so on. So perhaps that's why the rate is low. And also, it can also be a funding issue, financial issue. People don't just have money to afford that.
It makes me wonder what will be the price when it comes to, what will be the percentile when it comes to alcohol intake as well.
Yeah, so there's no such application when it comes to alcohol, is there? Because the fact is,
there might be an alcohol
sweetened
tax.
drinks are not just the only source for sugar. Whether you like it or not, your beer also is carbon.
Most of them are foods,
we don't
generally.
even know this.
Most of our foods.
Starch is sugar.
Yes.
The eba that you eat every day has plenty of sugar. So is there going to be a tax on Gary now anytime soon?
No,
I hope not.
No, there's not going to be a tax on Gary.
But then, do you suggest a situation where there is a balance between economic growth and public health?
Yes, there should be a balance between both. Yeah, we should. I think advocacy would go a long way to influence behavior of people, because I am of the opinion that to a large extent, increase in prices will not deter people from taking what they want to take. So some people, especially the avid consumers, increase in prices will not deter them.
I know the bottle of drink used to be what, 100 naira, 120? Now it's 350 naira.
And people still consuming. Yeah,
350 naira in Lagos. Outside of Lagos, it's much more expensive because the further you get away from the industries that make these drinks, the more expensive the logistics makes it. So you can imagine how much even the poor person, how much more the poor people who live outside of Lagos are paying for these drinks.
It might also be that because we live in the tropics, our environment is very hot, so people will most likely want those kind of drinks.
Drink water. But in the long run, will this cause any significant impact on whether health or the economy at all? Have we seen any significant difference from 2021 up until now since it was initiated?
There's no research on that now to get the data. Perhaps it might take a 5-year period for people to conduct a research to see if prices have increased significantly or, if consumption have increased significantly or decreased as a result of the tax. But I think the idea of the tax was looking at other countries. I think there are over 40 countries globally that have such kind of tax. So the idea of that tax was looking at what has happened in those countries with significant increase in with the tax and how it led to decrease in consumption. So I think that's why they are implementing such.
Do we have any such tax on any other commodity, like perhaps tobacco? Do we have such?
I think there used to be, there is, and I think there was also an alcohol tax, but I think it's administered by local government. A lot of them are not that effective in administering the tax, but I think there's an alcohol tax.
There was also a ban as well for the sachet, and look what happened.
Yeah, look at what happened. You see how the association stood by the people and all of that. They had to withdraw. I think NAFDAC have withdrawn it and say, okay, they'll bring it later.
Yeah. I saw the sachets. Anyway, Agogo, this has been quite the very informative conversation I've had. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Agogo.
And sharing and providing us your valuable insight in this very interesting topic. Well, that was Agogo Udi. He's an economist and analyst with Nairametrics, and we're talking about the 20% tax increase on sugar consumption in Nigeria. Now we'll switch gears now to Focus Africa, where we turn our attention to Ethiopia. Once again, welcome back, and you're on to Focus Africa, where we turn our attention to the tragic events unfolding in Ethiopia, where a devastating landslide has claimed at least 257 lives. The landslide, which struck in the Kalam-Wolagi region of Oromia, has left communities in shock and mourning as rescue efforts continue amidst challenging conditions. With dozens of people still missing, rescuers are racing against time to find survivors and bring much-needed aid to those affected. The Ethiopian government and international organization are coordinating efforts to provide support, but the scale of the disaster highlights significant challenges in addressing such natural calamities.
The increasing frequency and intensity of such disasters raise critical questions about the role of climate change in exacerbating natural events in the region. Ethiopia, like many other countries, is grappling with impact of extreme weather conditions which threaten to further destabilize vulnerable communities. Addressing underlying causes and enhancing resilience to future disasters has become an urgent priority for the country. And to discuss this pressing issue, we are joined by Makanin Toshema, Director of Alliance for Science in Ethiopia. He's going to be sharing his insight with us. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. Now, could you please provide us an update on the current state of the rescue operations that are happening right now on site, and maybe challenges being faced by the responders on ground?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, the region where this landslide happened is called the Southern Nations and the Nationalities regions of Ethiopia, not Oromia. So, as you said, the landslide is, according to scientists, meteorologists, it is one of the events related to extreme weather, like flooding, a heat wave, and other natural disasters. And sometimes landslides happens, we know it is related with geophysical factors like earthquake, volcanic activity. But this time around, scientists are telling us that it could be related. Of course, it is being investigated, but it could be related with heavy rains around there. And it has claimed so far 231 Ethiopians' lives, the lives of citizens, and 18 people are still missing.
And so I have to ask, right? You said that landslides are currently it's recurring in Ethiopia, but has climate change contributed to the increasing frequency and severity of these landslides in these areas?
Yes, As I said, the factors could be many, but we know that this area of Gofa, the southern Ethiopian region, is now has it is deforestation problems of related with deforestation, soil erosion, and settlement of many people there. So human activities are also there, like depletion of forests, and human activities are also there. And it is related. Yes, it is. It could be related with climate change and deforestation.
Okay, so let's ask about you just said that this is something that happens frequently. Is there a possibility that these might continue, the landslides, or maybe even similar natural disasters currently?
Yes, dear. It is, to your surprise, small landslides are happening now, being reported here in Ethiopia, like the area of called Kaffa. And yes, Ethiopia is one of the highland areas, high altitudes with these peaks and so many mountains and heavy rains. So landslides are expected, and the government is now has announced that 6,000 people should be removed or resettled to other areas because of similar possibility of similar dangers.
You just talked about the government. I would like to ask about the actions that the Ethiopian government is taking currently to mitigate the impact of such disasters, and just how are they supporting these communities as well that are affected by landslides and the likes.
Yeah, we have here in Ethiopia, the government has a huge initiative of tree planting areas and improving the environment. Even last year we have had this tree plantation campaign that has broken world record. We replanted trees, billions of trees actually. So it was on the record worldwide. So we have these environmental protection and soil protection activities. And coming to the support that are being given to the affected communities, the Ethiopian Disaster and Risk Management Commission has also deployed its professionals, and vital emergency goods are also being provided, and other regions, other bodies like the Addis Ababa City Administration has provided 45 million worth of 45 million Ethiopian birr vital goods and emergency materials. And also foreign governments like the United Arab Emirates has sent consignments of vital goods for emergency, 70 ton of goods and foods to Ethiopia. And the Ethiopian Disaster Risk Management Commission has already received these materials. And locally, the government and the people are also raising, funds and materials to provide these communities. And of course, 500 people now are being under this emergency situation and under needs shelter, temporary shelters.
Has there been any international interest shown for the situation? Has any international organization or maybe neighboring countries offered help for Ethiopia since the occurrence of this instance?
Yes, the president of Kenya, William Ruto, has sent messages of, and also he promised support. And as I said, the United Arab Emirates government has sent 70 tons of vital emergency goods and foods to Ethiopia, and others like the WHO and the Chinese president, and all the governments are expressing their support.
Our hearts go out to the communities. I'd like to ask what it is like now there with 257 people dead already and more still missing. What is it like there? Can you give us a bit more just a backstory on the community?
Yeah, the situation is very serious, and the area is very, very huge that is affected. So still the information are not fully compiled, but the government announced that the days will reach even 500. Yesterday it announced it. So it is still people are trying to help bodies to take up bodies from the meds, and the situation is continuing.
It's really sad. It makes me wonder if you can give one thing about the media and press is that we just throw out numbers, 257, but we don't give out names. We don't give out, sometimes they're just numbers. I would like for you to humanize these numbers for me. Were they families, uncles, children, teachers? Talk to me about the numbers.
Yeah, locally this has been already being reported. Yes, since it is a very huge area, families, the total families, neighbors, and even security forces, policies, and others that are there to help, were hit by another event of slides. And yes, there are kids and the whole family, and even people that arrived there in a few minutes were also become dead.
Conan,
yes.
Regarding the communities that are affected, are there some still isolated because of the landslides, and what efforts are being made to help evacuate these communities? As we hear, there are some communities that are trapped, roads cut out and all. So what's the government doing for these communities?
Yes, since it is a very rural area and isolated area of the southern Ethiopian region, of course we need this mechanisms that could to help these people, the isolated people. And this morning the Ethiopian army, defense forces, expressed their support, that being, because the army has all the helicopters and all the mechanisms, to help these people out. I think the Ethiopian armed sources will help in this area.
Mm. Well, Conan, I want to say thank you so much for taking our time this morning to join us, and our heart goes out to the families and those who lost their lives, and also to the responders and emergency team just working around the clock there, those communities. Again, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're still watching Breakfast Extra right here on News Central TV. We're going to a short break, and we come back on the other side. There is more. Stay with us.
And you're welcome. It's time for the strips. Let's put a little bit of humor into everything, including the polity and everything that's happening right now. Judith is going to be with me on this one as we take a look at the satirical cartoons that made landfall all through last week. Unfortunately, we couldn't take them yesterday, but we said we're going to bring it to you even on Sunday.
Was I going anywhere?
Well, Judith, what was that again?
Was I going anywhere?
No, you weren't, of course.
We're
now stuck at the hip together here together.
Now.
Well, let's take a look at our very first newspaper strip for today, which is from last week, mind you. We'll continue compiling from this week. Our very first one, and very first few, actually, from Business Day newspaper. Check this out. Oga, the people are protesting. They're hungry. And then this is kind of like the green room, if you know what I mean. It's a very different variation on the hats this time. It's yin yang instead of the spectacles that we normally see. But I'm guessing we know who it is already. It says, okay, now all you need to do is get more hungry people to stage a counter protest. I think that this is one of the conspiracies that people are peddling around right now regarding August 1st protests that are oncoming, as we see plenty of groups pulling out. The narrative, suggested narrative, is that they are being sponsored to pull out, and by the bodies that have, something to lose. I don't know what you think about it, Judith. What do you think?
Well, the sky is blue.
That's it?
No, I don't have
Judith, I was hoping you were going to help there.
No, okay, so here's what I would say,
yes,
right?
Please.
We've seen this too many times, okay? I mean, hashtag EndSARS protest was a very, very one that comes to mind when, it was hijacked by hoodlums, and then, very strategic attacks happened within that time. And so very strategic as well. We've also seen that this government as well, and Mr. Presidency, President Bola Tinubu, was also here, was also a very, very vocal voice during the administration of President Jonathan, especially during the subsidy removal debacle that happened here in Lagos. And the AC at the time, now APC, was very huge in that movement. So I will say that are those rumors unfounded, or those conspiracy theories unfounded? I don't know. But the stats and what we've seen, I mean, history always teaches us the president.
The president is not a newcomer.
Like I said, the sky is blue.
Yeah, the sky is blue. The president is not a newcomer to protest. He also testified that he actually was part of protest. Business Day, however, they weren't letting this go. Normally we'll take different papers, but they had so many of these strips. They have another one here. Okay, they're coming. You have to stop them. I think that's husband and wife. Don't know exactly who. Don't worry. The hunger will get them. That whoever puts these together, I mean, that's just, you're grim. There's still another one from Business Day about, and I think even from the Punch about the protest, because that's all everybody was talking about last week. Like I said from the start of the show, there's a certain silence right now, and everybody's focused on what's going to happen come August 1st. What can we do to placate the people before August 1st, especially the youth? Let's take a look at the other one again, I think from Business Day, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, this one's on the refinery.
Oh, no, not my uncle.
Judith,
it's my uncle.
Bear with Business Day. Bear with Business Day. Are they wrong though?
Well, if it's hard for me to do business, I might as well sell the business. He's being a savvy businessman.
I don't want to do it again.
A seasoned businessman at that.
Exactly.
So if you're going to make things hard for me, I might as well sell it.
Poor Dangote at this point.
He's not poor. Ching. Hi, uncle.
You know what? When I said it, it didn't compute. So error. I've retrieved that. Dangote. Unfortunate Dangote is what I should say. Let's just leave that one there.
I'll leave it there. I'll take it.
It's the only euphemism we can come up with. But this is the situation with the Nigerian government, or rather the NNPC versus Dangote refineries, as so much has been said regarding the refinery and the products that they're putting out, whether it's wholesome, whether it's best, whether it's good. And then it's drawing attention to the Nigerian landscape for doing businesses. Will it be attractive for other businesses to say, I want to come and do business in Nigeria, if the Nigerian government, or whatever the policies are, act as a yogurt to eat its own from the inside out, not even giving its own people, its indigenous rich people, the opportunity to invest in the country they come from and perhaps help the masses with whatever suffering they're going through. If it was me, Judith, I tell you, honestly, the sky is blue.
That's the answer to every question.
How's that?
Well, I would say this. It's very interesting how the narrative has changed completely. I remember when the launch was happening in 2023. It was
excitement, wasn't it?
Last year, if I'm correct, in 2023, last year, when the launch was happening of Dangote Refinery, just at the end of the President Buhari administration and just at the cusp of President Tinubu. And this was, touted to be the solution and the beginning the circle and the beginning of a new dawn in our industry, especially the refining arm of the oil and gas industry. And it's very interesting how the tides and the narrative has changed overnight. And it just begs to ask the question, are we ready for business? And what image are we portraying to foreigners and foreign direct investment who are looking to come to invest in
Is
Nigeria?
Nigeria open for business? Big question. We have no answers yet. And that's what's causing all of these agitations that we're going through now with the youths that are rising up and asking for change. We're not done with the protest. We still have one more, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about the protest, about August 1st. Let's take a look at this one. If I'm not mistaken, it must be from the Punch newspaper, if I'm correct. The Vanguard. August 1st protest. I beg. Now, there is something very subtle about this, and it's the fact that it would seem that the youth have the power to bring the governance of Nigeria to its knees and say, please, we hear you. There's so many more questions to ask and answers to be given regarding what the modus operandi would be from now on when it comes to dialoguing with these youth. Many have said perhaps maybe we need a central point or central body to channel their demands and we can talk to these. Many questions, like I said. Did the government also have to wait for such an instance before they say, okay, we hear you? And all the calls for, yes, we hear you. What have you heard? Who spoke to you? Who told you what, where, when, how? Do you really hear us? But remember, yes, you were saying, Judith?
We have to pause now to bring breaking news. We understand that armed terrorists suspected to be members of Boko Haram have launched a violent assault on the Jakana police station in Kuduga local government area of Borno State on Sunday. Now, the attackers killed a police driver and a female acquaintance, as confirmed by locals. We have Umaru Kirawa, our News Central correspondent, who will be bringing up an update in our subsequent bulletin from Jakanta, a 45-kilometer drive from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Again, attacks have been made by the Boko Haram on a police station in Maiduguri. More details will be coming up shortly. And this is the breaking news. Stay with us.
Oh, welcome back. And wow, what breaking news to bring to you, especially at this time when we're discussing the strips. But it's very sad, but we had to bring that to you. But we weren't done with the strips for this week, or rather from last week, and we're talking about the situation now regarding the protest. But let's move on from the protest. Let's talk about Nigeria and how they're trying to make sure that they shore up the economy any which way they can with whatever parasital or infrastructure that they have. And that's what this paper here, or rather this editorial here from the Punch newspaper depicts. Covering number plates attracts jail term. Police warn motorists. Your documents are complete, but hey, your offense is that your number plate is dirty. I'll tell you something about this instance right here. I've been through it. It was one letter on my number plate, and it seems to have rubbed off. Now, it was just wear and tear. However, I was charged and asked to pay a certain amount. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's a lot. It's not my fault that these things weren't produced properly. But that's the situation where it's, in this case, jail time, in other cases, penalties that are monetary. And of course, we all know where they go, back to the government. So are we the cash cows is the question. I'm only asking as a devil's advocate.
Well, of course, I'm never going to be on the side of the government. I would definitely be for the side of the people and, you know, call accountability. But you rightfully put it, right? There are many agencies that are now taught, instead of them to be tasked with the responsibility that they have, it's now all revenue generating.
Seems.
You know, they now seem to be generating revenue agencies. Agencies that ought not to be doing this at all will be there doing that, you know, and be starting you for money, asking for money, giving you a ticket, all of this. And it's like, when does it end? And I understand. I know somebody's going to be watching this and be saying, well, Judith, if it's a working, you know, a first world country or developed countries, they always tax the citizens. If you park wrongly, they will give you a ticket, a parking ticket. But I will ask again, are you America?
What a way to bring the end of the show to you. Lagos, Nigeria, the rest of the world. It's been Breakfast Extra. And Judith, boy, have we had quite the weekend now, haven't we? All the way from yesterday up until today. And mostly, the general topic has been all about August 1st. We wait to see exactly what's going to happen from there. I see you wiping sweat away. Are you trepid about it?
No, I'm not.
You know what? How about you run about giving advice to the youth about this protest?
I think that we have seen a change in the narrative or in youth participation since NSAS, right? And we see it completely. And even during the voter registration exercise of 2022, we saw it. They had never seen those numbers, unprecedented numbers in time. And afterwards, especially on the election day, I was fortunate to be able to cover the election day, February of 2023. And what we saw from the videos that was on social media, we saw many younger people waiting until the end of the day to see their results. So they have been more vocal. With the advent of social media, there's more think pieces. People are coming on, sharing their views. They're now more getting involved. And I think that that's the answer. But is our place of godfatherism in our politics going to, aid them to lead? That's a question for another day. But all the same, it's your right. Go ahead. That's all I have to say.
All I'll say is, along with your placards, bring a plan. Thank you very much. It's been quite the weekend here since yesterday. We're going to go now and prepare for the next installment,
I'm going
which will
to
be
bed.
next weekend.
I'm going for brunch.
It never stops here, Judith. We have to get back to the drawing table. So,
oh, yes, indeed.
From us here on Breakfast Extra, my name is Mazino Appeal, and I've had quite the weekend with you guys.
And I'm Judith at TV. It's been a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week, Saturday.
Bye-bye now.
Bye now.